So the first question that I wanted to ask was, I guess it was 1981, it could have been as far back as 1980, but can you tell the story? I know you've told it before, but we're going to capture it and everybody here might not have heard it. Can you tell the story of being approached to write the book?
I've been trying to get writing work from Marvel for years, and they kept saying, well, you can't write, you're an artist. And a lot of it is because all the editors are writers. And the most scary threat to a writer is somebody who can, an artist who can write their own stuff. It sort of makes them redundant. When Hasbro came to Marvel, they went to Jim Shooter and they said, well, look, we need to find a writer that can, put all the backstory together and get this on their feet. So he sent out a note to every single contract writer at Marvel, and every single contract writer turned it down. So he then sent out a note to every single non-contract writer, which meant that every other writer in the universe, and they all turned it down. You have to understand that a toy book at the time, a licensed toy property book, was the bottom of the barrel, and everybody said, oh, if you ever work on a toy book, you'll never get an A-list or even a B-list book ever again, because you're a pariah and you're just known as, like, the bottom of the barrel, because the licensing money for licensing a property came off the top of the page rate, so they couldn't pay an A-list or even a B-list person to work on the book. So Jim Shooter got turned down by all the writers, so he went to every editorial office, and he started at one end of editorial row, and he asked all the writers, all the editors, the assistant editors, and the kid that went out to get coffee, and even the kids who went out to get coffee turned it down. And my office was the last office in the row. And he got to my office, and I said, you'll actually let me write it? And he said, sure. So I took it on. I figured it was the only way I was going to get writing work from Marvel. You have to understand that if you were a full editor at Marvel, and I was a full editor, I was in charge of Crazy magazine, and then later Conan the Barbarian, and obviously you couldn't write for another company if you were an editor for that company. But I was able to prove to Jim Shooter that I had gone to every single editor at Marvel, and none of them would give me writing work. So he gave me actual special dispensation to write for other so my first writing gig was actually writing for Eerie at Warren magazine. I did a samurai strip for Wheezy Jones, who's now Louise Simonson. So that's how it all started.
That's how you got the job.
How I got the job.